this training would be definitely a different one. That one of the main reasons is previously the Azure infrastructure has primarily been focused on how do we go ahead and create a storage account? How do we create a virtual machine? Some 3 years back, I'm not trying to talk even about last year. Last year also there was a change in how the expectations was, but they expected it to be having a deep knowledge and all that. But right now, the expectation is lying around uh, a bit more higher compared to what has been in the previous years. And during the start of this, like 3, 4 years back, the Azure infrastructure expectation is the cloud infrastructure expectation is how do you create any specific service like virtual machine to go and run some commands or workloads or host a website? How do we create an app service? What is the purpose of a load balancer to balance the traffic where a lot of incoming requests for a server are coming? And how do we route that traffic to a different? So there are different services for each of it, and they expected us to talk about those and explain what it is. It's just like it used to be the hiring of an interview or hiring in a companies in the past 3, 4 years back on cloud. I was mostly on terms of like an how it used to go into an exam or how usually it happens in a college viva. What is it? What is this so and so? Do you know this and all that? The reason is because the company itself haven't experienced trying to service or provide service to clients in cloud. So because of that, not many people in the market are aware of how what is cloud. So if you just are trying to talk some cloud words, that used to be suffice for getting the job done. But right now, it is not that is not the reality of the situation. Even if you try to learn, so in my previous courses, how did I used to do is I started emphasizing specifically on virtual machine what all aspects would be coming in. How do we back up? How do we go and set up a Bastion host? How do we connect two machines in a different networks in different regions while peering the network? How do I set up a load balancer, traffic manager? So I used to specifically talk about how one service there are a lot of features, and then I go ahead and talk about the other service in a generic point of view. The reason I used to do it is because as people started migrating after 3 years to 2, 3 years, 1 year down the lane, they expected the specialization in one topic, or if you are able to talk about one service in so deep, they used to feel that okay, the rest of the services, if I give a chance, he can start learning and all that. At least from his experience point of view, whatever he worked on one service or whatever he understood it, that is much greater. But right now, the the market invent in such a way that you just having the awareness on just cloud infrastructure wouldn't just suffice. There are more additions to it. You need to be a DevOps engineer. If you are being a DevOps engineer, you have to be a Terraform engineer, or you should be a landing zone expert, or you should be a security guy, or you should be the Kubernetes guy, or you should be specifically the data science guy or a data engineering guy. So there are specializations which came around Azure. So I feel that the previous ones where we are trying to talk about just a virtual machine, lot of aspects involved from networking front to storage front, and all that bringing. How do I specifically talk about a VM in those many number of classes? That is was a different days. Now, why am I saying this? It's just not the information about to brag about the difference in the uh, just not to just point out the difference between the what do you say my course, the previous course and this course. It is making you guys understand that right now, if you guys thinking that if I just learn Azure Cloud, it would be more easier for me to get into any company, or just I can brag about that I am knowing about cloud computing. No, it doesn't work anymore. You guys have to be strong at the services, and along with it, you guys have to focus on learning a DevOps or a Terraform or a Kubernetes or data engineering or anything, an extra added feature on top on top of this. If you're able to do this, that is when there is a good chance that market are looking right now market is looking for those kind of activities. Okay, so hope you got me there. Uh, you have to try understanding those aspects. So let me get into explaining. So why did I bring this up? So when we are trying to learn this course, you guys end up uh, writing an exam after some couple of days. It's trust me, everything in Microsoft is pretty easier. You go ahead and read AZ-104, Azure Administration, Microsoft Azure Administration, uh, from this course, and you will go and attempt this exam. So there are dumps in the market and all that. That's how people get it done. I don't want it to talk about it, but if you really try to learn, uh, when you are trying to go through the dumps and all that, you will understand how the questions pattern would be. So dumps will help you in terms of practice, test, and all that. And if you are trying to learn how the pattern of the questions and everything, the exam would be much easier to crack. Uh, and if you're able to go through some 200 questions of dumps, it just becomes easier to crack the exam. But the point is, you have to get under reading the questions and trying to understand why such an if you wherever you're going wrong, why there is an answer of such sort will help you understand how the Azure is being built around and how do in organizations we look at an Azure cloud and all. It's great to go and attempt this exam. So it's cost around some in Indian rupees. It costs around some 6,000 bucks. Yeah, 6,000 rupees. It costs, and you can get it done. So you can go ahead and write it in a center, or you can go ahead and write it in your home itself. Now coming, there are topics which we are covering. So in this exam, this is what are the topics which will be coming in. There are 5 topics, and another the 5 topics is what all this subsection of topics are coming. The subsections are coming in. So I just make it simpler. If I go into the Azure Cloud, this is what is Azure Cloud, the portal.azure.com. So I'll explain you in more detail each one at this point of time, as it's an initial session and all that. I'm just giving you a basic walkthrough. So there are different categories of services. I click on all services here. There are different category of services. If I look at AI machine learning, there are some services which Azure is providing related to AI machine learning. So if someone wants to have some specific softwares or workloads, let's keep it that way, the softwares and all that. So definitely not all are SaaS applications. I'll explain what is SaaS applications later on, but at this point of time, SaaS you can consider as software. So there are some services we term we there are like SaaS, PaaS, and all that. But my point is, whenever you wanted organizations wants to create some machine learning models, or they wanted a platform to create machine learning models and all, or somewhere they can run their machine learning developed machine learning models in some service. That is where they come back to AI machine learning category, and they can look for those services whichever they're looking for. And right now, this course is focused on explaining majorly in terms of administration, the major categories. There will be about virtual machine. What is the purpose of a virtual machine? There's a virtual machine scale set. What is the purpose of virtual machine scale set? There is a image. What is the purpose of an image? There is an availability set. What is the purpose of an availability set? So the flow goes in such manner. Anyways, I'll explain that. Under compute, we have it. What is a compute? So it is trying to give us a compute processor capacity to go and run any process and as such. So that's where you see compute category, the services lying around those. If you are going at databases, there are different types of databases, right? SQL, there is Microsoft Azure SQL database. There is Cosmos DB, which is a NoSQL database. There is a MongoDB. There is PostgreSQL database. There is MySQL database. So there are different databases in the market, and Microsoft Azure is providing those what do you say, these services as a uh, service to the customers. Softwares as a service to the customers. So what is a cloud? Again, if you remember, normally if I wanted to run any software, how do I do it? I go and install my laptop or a desktop, or if you are working in a company, what do you used to do? You go and take that software and run it on that desktop or laptop of the company where you run the show. So usually a company softwares or something, they don't run it on a laptop, they'll run it on a desktop, which we don't say desktop, we'll say it as server. Even it looks like a desktop. The reason is because desktop and server have two different hardware components. The cost which you have for a desktop i5 processor and cost for a processor of a server are very different. Desktops are being built for our usage where we don't make the laptop sit for 24 hours. But whereas in server, there is no stop to it. It has to run for 365 days. So when that kind of situation, the server components will differ. So the cost of the hardware for a server, even if there are same specifications like i5 or i12, i9 and all that, the specifications, even they are same, the cost is way higher uh, because the hardware is built with the capacity of running 24 cross 7 without any uh, problems. So it will be definitely 2 to 3x times the cost of the normal hardware. Procuring this kind of huge amount of hardware was very costlier and all that. That is where this cloud came in. Cloud said that, okay, if you want anything, I'll just give it in a click. Just click on the button. I'll give you whatever you wanted. Okay. Not that they'll send the hardware to their place. It is like they're not going to shop, they're going to rent it. So if you are aware, right now there are many people in cities who don't purchase the furniture anymore. Instead, they rent it for a period of time, and they're done with it. They shell it out. They give it back to the people whom they took rent for. The same way, Azure is having the entire infrastructure. Microsoft Azure, they have created the entire infrastructure in different places in different regions across the world. Okay, in different places in different countries around the world. Let's me keep it that way. So anyone who wants to have the access, so when you are going ahead and creating something like a simple virtual machine, that means you are creating an instance where it is going to consume some specific hardware in a region. Now, where you wanted to pick, from which region you wanted to pick the hardware from, there are different regions where. So if you wanted India, you can go ahead. There are placed in India a couple of things: Central India, South India. So there is South India, West India, and there is Central India. There are three regions where the hardware is being set up in India, and you can go ahead and choose one region. So there, what will happen out of it? In cloud, what is it? So anything which you're doing, end of the day, that is running as an instance or a inside an hardware. That is what you will be able to get this. Even if you guys are not understanding right now, it is fine. Okay, because as we keep going, we'll get to that. Right now, just explaining just a basic one, what is cloud, what is the purpose of a cloud and all that. So while explaining this, I just wanted to explain what is cloud. So they're giving that instance of hardware, whatever is in through the internet. You guys can go and access the virtual machine from the internet. that is that is why the service is being provided it's called that service is being provided in cloud. And so there are different clouds in the market. So such kind of services are being provided by different companies in the market. So when you see a machine which is being created in one region and they're just going to give us IP address where we can log in from our machines to that machine. Okay. Uh, how are these services are providing through cloud? So it's just not Microsoft alone. There are different companies who are providing this kind of service over cloud. One of the company is Microsoft, the other company is Amazon, the other company is GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and there is Oracle, there is Salesforce. There are a lot of companies who are providing the such service over cloud. Okay. Why such kind of requirement became a so huge hit? You guys have to understand that companies used to have a very hard time procuring the hardware and run it and test things and all that. It's more time consuming. Maintenance activity used to, so it's just not like you set up some hardware and you leave it. Okay. Whenever there are huge number of machines, you end up placing lot amount of ACs and all that. Now, when you are having huge amount of ACs and all that, or the what do you say, air coolers and all that, that will end up taking huge amount of consumption of power and all. Along with it, there should be database administrators, there should be server administrators, there should be network administrators. It depends on what type of what is it that we are looking for. Based on that, we need that kind of administrators, and we might end up paying huge amount of money and to maintain that. So in software, we call those as data center. Okay, we can call servers, but what if there are two servers? Yeah, we're calling two servers or one server, fine, it is fine. But if there are some thousands of servers placed in one locality of some 3, 4, 5, 6 floors, it is entirely placed with servers. Now what we call server room, but also we call it as data center. Huge, we call data center. So these data centers have to be created by company with a huge cost, and the procurement and setting it up and maintaining it up is a very huge challenge. Let's talk like that we are creating a company. If we are the ones who are creating the company, we go ahead and create one company with what do you say, where we wanted to develop games. And we developed one game and we wanted to test it out. But to release it in the market, we need huge amount of money because we need lot of servers and all that. While doing that, it is going to be that will be that means we have to shell out some source of money to just test it out whether it is working or money. So at least 10 crores or 5 crores is what we have to test it. And when we set it up, it took us some 2, 3 months to set it up the entire one because we waited for a discounted price time and all that. But during this time, someone released some version of similar to our game. So we lost our business, right? So assume that in the 3 months, no one has came and developed any game as similar to us, but we took some 3 months. Now after that, it became a huge hit. But right now, lot of users are flowing in. Now our hardware have to increase 10x times. We have previously 20 servers, now or 50 servers. This time we have to spike it to some 500 servers. When that is the situation, it took us 3 months to set up 50 servers. When we are setting up 450 servers, when we set up, it costed us 10 crores. Now that one will cost 100 crores. So we have to get the investors. We have to approve that. We have to make them show this. And then we have to come back and set it up, this entire thing. So would it be not challenging for us to utilize this creation of this data center and all that? This is where cloud comes in. Cloud comes in and says that I'll give the rented infrastructure. You don't need to pay me 10 crores. Just pay me 25 lakhs per month. Okay. If you wanted 100 crores infrastructure, then pay me 1 crore per month or 2.5 crores per month, whatever it is. So that's how it goes in. What do you take back from this? So, cloud can provide any amount of huge infrastructure, whichever usually an organization wants it. They'll try to set it up and get it as fast as possible because that's their huge business. So you guys focus. So the cloud is trying to say that you guys actually wanted not servers, you wanted your game to become a hit and you wanted your users to run the game. Run that game in my hardware. Don't worry about setting up the hardware and how do I ensure that users are not getting any lags in while they're playing the game and all that. You guys should not worry about it. You guys uh, ensure that you are set. Take my hardware and run it and pay me the rent for it and get. So there are organizations loving to prefer this one than there are organizations prefer to have a data center. So it doesn't mean that if cloud comes in, there will be no companies prefers data centers. There is a migration to cloud, and but doesn't mean that companies don't have their data center. Companies will have their data center, will have their own service and all that. So it's a huge business goes out of it. So if you are trying to develop a website, you guys can understand out of why people have to shift to cloud and all that. So if you try developing one website and do a performance testing, how many requests it can take, a server can take, you will get to know that, okay, a couple of requests only can help for a server machine and end up when a business is making some source of money per month, and that's the reason why they are giving as an expense some money to the IT engineers or IT company for taking care of the IT into the online stuff. That's where that's how you're getting paid as salaries. My point is when someone there are like 20 people team or 10 people team are being working for a company and they are getting paid from this, understand the amount of business they're doing. From that, understand amount of customers who are coming online. So when amount of customers are coming online, that means number of requests which are coming to a server of that company. How many requests are coming in? Think in this point of view. So this means that they need huge amount of servers when they're running, they're generating that much huge amount of business. If 10 people definitely come to Amazon, there would be one person who purchase it. There is what do you say? There is obviously there will be number of customers who visit and number of customers who buy it. So definitely the percentage will be less. To 20% will be the customers who will come and buy just to actually do the window shopping and all that. Now the same thing so number of customers, that means if someone are having business monthly some crores of customers, it means there are next times customers who came and tried just checking out what it is. So understand the number of requests were actually there and how that it should be there. Like it's like a shop is open and there are some people who are purchasing it and there are some people who are just coming and watching it. If there are not too many employees to go and help each of these customers, then the sales will go down. Now, the same way, the number of customers are coming in, a number of requests are coming into a server, and if the server is sending slow to take the process because of the congestion, lot of huge amount of traffic congestion which comes in, the server is not able to send the request back in speed. So in that kind of case, what happens? Even some customers who come in for purchasing will go. So the servers as such should be in a situation of taking requests with the less latency. Within less amount of time, when I say less latency, within less amount of time, they have to send the response back for the request they got. What is a request and a response here? So anything, whenever you are sending you're opening google.com in your browser, that is like you're sending a request to Google server and you're getting a response back your machine, the Google page into your laptop. So that is the request whichever is being sent from a client we call client, which is nothing but your laptop or your desktop or whatever your user who uh, who is a client, and then there is a server. So when you send a request, that is like called request, and you're getting back is called response. So will client send response? No. So client is someone who sends a request. Please understand always this. This is a common norm you have to keep in mind. Client is someone who only sends requests. Someone who accepts the request and process it and send back a response is a server. Okay. So when lot of users are sending requests as such sort, so server should be in a position to send back the response. That's the reason why when we are talking about gaming situation story, we are saying that the organization needs huge amount of servers to process huge number of requests. If there are less, it is taking lot of time for employees in a store. When there are like if there are 10 employees, they can service some 100 clients. What if there are 1,000 clients? Then we need 100 employees. At one employee per 10 people. In that kind of case, one there will be 1 to 2 buyers. That's how we have to focus the business. Now, the same way we are trying to focus the same thing here, because it is proved that there is a huge latency, or there is a latency for websites load in your browser. There is a good chance that the people won't open that website. So there is like how much latency is permitted. Okay, means not permitted means it's nothing like there is a governance rule and all that. You can take your web page to be opened after 1 minute or 10 minutes also, but customers won't prefer after some 10 seconds or 5 seconds. If the page is taking time, 5 to some it's lesser than 10 seconds. It's somewhere around 5 to 7. It's 4 to 7 seconds, I guess. If it is taking time to load the page, there's a very good chance that customers won't visit the web page. So to make them engaged, it should be a bit faster. So imagine right now Amazon.com, imagine Amazon.in, Flipkart.com, when lot of people, billions of people were going and accessing it, how fast it should be. Now, when that fast they need, then how many servers they would need it. So Netflix, Amazon, all this, they actually have their own infrastructures based across the world to provide that faster response by their servers whenever a request is coming in. Any questions here? Am I going very fast? Am I being very slow? You can answer that. Feel free to ask me anything on that. Okay. There is a lot of hesitation. It shouldn't be the way. Try to break the ice. It's fine. This is primarily if you trust me, if you are able to ask some good number of questions in each session of it, that means you're taking back very well. All is related to your survival point of view. If or how do I keep it is in terms of your learning and progressing to the next level. So if there are always a baby steps which you have to do and take that leap forward to proceed. Feel free to ask any questions. So try to ensure that you guys are coming with at least 3-4 questions in a session మీరు అడుగుతున్నారు అంటే that is what you will take back from the course. అంటే ఇవాళ for today you might be remembering that whatever I just said you can actually learn from that. But once the 10 days later you will only remember what you only asked. Trust me, that is what will happen. You will only remember, oh, I asked this so and so question, and that is the response which I got. Okay, that is what that particular topic is what you'll remember more, more better, because that is what it came from your mouth. That's more of an action point of view, and that's proven. It's actually proven that that's the more memory which will run. So in organization also, are the topics which are primarily focused on, and an interview also they will ask. The only challenge right now which you will guys will face is no one will come and ask what is this. Everyone will come and ask what is your process on this concept. What do you know about this? Then the answer should be, suppose they're going to ask, just giving a very easier example. Okay, they're going to ask what is a virtual machine? What do you know about virtual machine? Previously, used to ask what is a virtual machine. Now I don't see kind of answer. I'm not talking about virtual machine. They used to ask about what is this so and so service, what does it do, and all that. No, not that. What do you know about it? No, let's see itself the question, the difference between this one. Someone is asking what is a virtual machine. Other person is asking what do you know about a virtual machine. What can you judge from these two people? One person asks this question, the other person asks this question. I feel P1 is trying to P2 is trying to just ask what it is. Okay, and yeah, okay, I should not judge a person and all that, but P2, I feel that he was asking me, do you know what is a virtual machine, and tell me that what is that. Okay, but if you see in the style of a P1 point of view, what do you know about a virtual machine, or tell me what did you do in virtual machine, that kind of questions, it is making me uh, he is making me say he wants to hear what all things can you do with what is a virtual machine, what all things can you do with a virtual machine, what all aspects, what how much, what is your level of understanding in a virtual machine. That is what he wants to understand. Here it is more about, do you know about virtual machine, does it, how does it work, and all that. But here is like, I feel that he understands that even he is not so good at virtual machine. There is a vast amount of it's like a ocean, but in that one, how much level do you know? What level? It's in the way we see it and all that. I agree with it, but this is the current expectation, the market. It's not anymore to explain the definition. So if you are trying to learn in this fashion, trust me, getting hired in an interview is going to be a challenging factor. You have to understand that even I am not even 100% sure on what is a virtual machine and all that. Okay. But I have the most, I have the understanding whatever I could have, the best. And I'll try to convey all those points and they feel, yeah, this is enough. It is very good enough. It is an excellent. There's more to it, but no one can know that much. Everyone utilize a machine in a different point of view. There will be definitely gaming industry utilize a virtual machine in a different point of view. There are the application developers, they use the virtual machine in a different point of view. There are AI engineers who use a virtual machine in a different point of view. So everyone, their purpose point of view, they utilize this virtual machine. In what circumstances, how do I integrate to what service, how do I monitor it, what kind of instances will I troubleshoot, all that will make someone understand how much I know about a virtual machine. So right now, way we are trying to, if at all you guys are trying to prepare, if so when I'm explaining, I'll definitely explain what is a virtual machine. I can't start the session without explaining what is a service, how does it, how do you create one, how do you, if you think that is sufficient for cracking an interview, no. I will explain that we use in so and so situations and all that. You have to go ahead and create one and try it out and test it out how that is going on. If you are limiting yourself to just understanding what it is that is not how it goes. Okay, you will face. So I don't need you to. There are hundreds of use cases for utilizing a virtual machine. I don't want you to go and try the 100 use cases. Can you go and try at least 10, 5, 4, or 3? Okay, and understand that when you're just creating a virtual machine, don't be in assumption that, yeah, I learned about what is a virtual machine. Because if you are in that assumption and you go and tell me that, I can understand what is your understanding about cloud. How do I keep it? Okay. Someone came to me and said that uh, they know cooking. They are amazing chefs. Someone, let's say like that. Someone came to me and said that they are amazing chefs. Now I asked them, cook me something. He says that I know how to cook a rice, I know how to cook a dal, I know how to cook a curry, and these others. In that, I know how to cook a curry. I don't know how to cook other vegetables, but I know four vegetables, and I know how to cook a rice and how to cook an omelette and all that. Now, what will you make out of that? He said he's a chef. What do you make out of that conversation? You will definitely feel that is still a naive, and is a beginner, and someone small. He still has to see the world. What is actually a chef? How do they actually being called? What do they really do, and all that? Am I right? Can you agree with me? Or do you have any other perceptions? The way the answer should happen is the way the interviewer expects it to be. So we can't expect how a person thinks and all that. Let me generalize. They wanted to understand how much you are aware of it. They don't feel bad and they don't want to demean anyone. So everyone are humans here. Let's not complicate things. It's the point is explain in this style. It is pretty impressive than everyone. See, there are 100 people who are coming to interview. 90 people explain in this style and 10 people explain in this style. Now, whom do you think find it more differentiable and all that? This 10 people. It applies everywhere, guys. Okay. If you take an Instagram account of a girl, there are like hundreds of messages will be there to that person. Okay. Now, whom that person will be picking up something which will be looking different. Everyone who sends and saying a gesture of hi doesn't work out. The other persons who send it the gesture of hi in a different way are the ones they feel, okay, what is that? How do I reach out and all that? So even here, do I have to take this conversation? You have to see it. Okay, I'm learning about a virtual machine. You have to go and see it. How do I take that? See, okay. So even this is an intro. I wanted you guys to understand how you have to habituate yourself. If you see it in that way, definitely trust me. The way the you see it in a different way. What is it? How it is utilized? How can to what level I can learn? What all other factors are there? How much time does it take? I tell that it's great to tell that I have 10 pointers. In 10 pointers of topics, 10 topics, I completed 5 topics. I will be completing the 2 more topics in next 2 months, and I'll complete another 3 4 topics in the next 6 months. And I wanted to achieve out of this so and so understanding. If you try to talk in interview, when they say, what do you know about a virtual machine to that level? Great. Your itself, you, it is making us aware that this person knows till what level it is, how much he has to understand. And with this limited understanding of 1 BHK itself, or what do you say, with a limited understanding of 1 BHK construction itself, he was able to still crack that there are a lot of other things, 2 BHK, 3 BHK, duplex, or gated community, or residential, commercial. So when he was able to explain in that point of view, and he'll think, okay, definitely he has that mindset, he has the heart and everything. So if I give a chance of going and keeping him in so and so for 2 months, he can pick it up from there. He won't be uh, what do you say, a burdensome for me in terms of trying to teach. So everyone aren't in a position to go and give everything teaching, and they can't do that. So that's the reason why even the market is currently, it's open to everyone right now. Previously the free hiring freeze happened from last 1 year. There is a hiring freeze which happened, but from the last 3 weeks the hiring started out, and but even in this situation, it didn't open for freshers. That means it is open only for experienced. So why they are preferring experienced? Because clients are not comfortable themselves to choose at this point of time freshers. And why did it happen? Because in last 3 years a technological shift happened. Last 3 years, people shifted from normal understanding of just Java or something. They shifted to a cloud. So even right now, developers who are working on Java, they might end up working on a cloud services. So at least they should have some basic understanding on some basic DevOps tools or some basic DevOps cloud tools and all that. And there are students who graduated in the last, graduated in the last 3 years. What happened? Their education, their foundational knowledge is missing on cloud or DevOps or on AI practices and all these things. That made them right now, companies are a bit reluctant to hire the freshers because they have to take time to educate all this situation. So instead, they're going with, at this point of time, the market is actually shifting to that. But yes, but definitely the market is going to get into that one. So why that? So let's not get into that situation of uh, freshers and experience. My point is, if you start learning in this style, experienced people, what happens is they'll try to compare. Oh, I tried utilizing virtual machine here. Oh, I know that my friend utilized virtual machine in so and so case. Now, when they talk in interview, what they will do, they'll try to talk about what is their experience with virtual machine. What did they do? Or at least if they don't have experience in that also, they whatever they have seen, they'll explain that. Because there are hundreds or numerous ways a virtual machine can be utilized. Even the interviewer is a human, and he's just been there in that company from couple of years. That's the reason why he's sitting in that interviewer position. So even he wouldn't be aware of those many cases, that case which you're trying to talk. So he'll be in the assumption that, okay, whatever you're saying, at least in terms of conceptually, you're right. That means you're using it in some way. Okay, if you're trying to bring a naive use case, I mean a smaller use case, and telling that that is what I utilized it, I means you're saying that people create machines to create documents and all that. That's not how the reality goes, right? Okay, you uh, that will not work. If you say that I constructed 1 BHK and I sold it to NRIs, who will believe that? No one will believe it. NRIs will purchase villas or gated community apartments or duplex or worst case 2 BHK. Now, how could you tell that 1 BHK has been sold to NRI? So there is a way of setting up the conversation and all that. Also, it's a bit important how you set up the conversation and all that. So definitely, I will specifically have a session through walkthrough on how you have to take interviews, how you have to explain an interview, how what is a to a specific question, how do you have to take a context. I have to give you an walkthrough on that. I have a specific Q&A document specifically emphasizing what kind of interview questions comes in and how do you have to talk about it and all. But coming to this again, back to this topic, uh, how the flow goes is, so there are the services which are going with cloud, right? Okay, so you understood that cloud is a service where we go and rent it at this point of time. Let's keep it that way. You can rent it. Now you can rent any amount of infrastructure. You go for a smaller machine, or you can go for 100 machines, or you can go for 1,000 machines also. Cloud can provide it, and cloud is been in market from couple of years, and the understanding which you need is a bit different, but it is definitely easier to learn. But you need to learn a level up course along with it. That is when there's a very good chance of getting hired. Learning with this level of understanding won't just suffice. Because why cloud is easier to learn? Because you go and click something, you'll understand, okay, this is how I have to go and create something and all that. But that is not needed anymore. They need something more better understanding than that. That's why I need a level up course. Okay, along with it, one more thing which I wanted to bring is there are other clouds in the market, Amazon, Microsoft, GCP, Oracle. So which one should I prefer? Anything, any you can take any clouds to start with. The most recommended is Microsoft and AWS, because there are there will be good openings for freshers on AWS and Azure in the market. Doesn't mean that GCP doesn't have. GCP and Oracle also, they have their own things. Everyone have their own plus points. So as I am teaching in Azure, you are guys are learning Azure. Okay, if I teach Amazon, AWS, you guys will learn. So what happened is, in the market, Amazon came in the first place. That is the reason why there are a lot of trainers in Amazon, AWS cloud, and a lot of people have learned AWS cloud. But Microsoft started growing very huge because of their bit cost efficient building, and because they're good at the GUI and all that. So there is a made Microsoft also started acquiring a huge amount of market, and that's where the requirement flowed in the last 2 years on Microsoft specifically. But again, right now it is getting stabilized. It's like saturation is there. It's getting into a saturation point and all that. Now, how do you learn? I also explained it. So when you just see, please understand that if I just create a virtual machine, I will also explain some use cases where you have to go and use it. You have to go and try that. My point is, if you go and create a virtual machine and you feel that that is sufficient, and I can tell to the interview that I create a virtual machine, I create a storage account, I create a load balancer, and no, you will be rejected. You are doing that. Okay, or you get a low pay scale. Okay, you wanted to get into that one, do that. But my point is, if you wanted to scale it to the next level, you wanted to do the next level task, because unless you get to know more understanding on different services and how do you tweak that one, the level up will help you embrace that kind of understanding over a topic. Because the level up course, like if you go and choose AI will choose will have virtual machines in it. AI will have storage accounts in it. AI will use databases with it. At that point of time, you will understand why how these services are being utilized in a holistic point of view. Why I'll show you sample architectures also. That's something which you should know. So how do I prepare myself? You should be in a position, once you're done with the courses, means even if I take this 1 month course, doesn't mean that 1 month is sufficient to learn. In reality, people are trying to learn this same course within 1 week, 2 weeks, and all that. I feel personally that it will take 6 months to have a complete, not entire understanding on this. I'll say to have a good understanding, it will definitely take some 6 months of time. Why it will take 6 months of time? To read the documentations, get habituated to read documentation, because the cloud itself is so vast. It's so vast that there are a lot of services. If I go with all, there are a lot of services. Okay, it is not easy for an individual to learn this out within next some 2 years or 3 years. Just takes lot of amount of time, and you know to learn this many amount of services to become good. See, you either become an guy, or you will become a data analytics guy, or you'll become a compute expert guy, or a container Kubernetes guy, or you become a database guy, or you become a DevOps engineer, or you will become a cloud engineer, or you will become a multi-cloud specialist in terms of on-prem and all this. So you can be an M365 guy, or an Active Directory guy, or you can be that developer who is using cloud developer, or you might be IoT guy. IoT is like that. You have this Alexa and all that. That's like IoT stuff. Okay, you can be an IoT guy. You can go a security guy. So there are different. So, or you can be a monitoring guy, or you can be a networking guy. So there's security, there's the governance also comes under the security. Administration also governance comes under. There is a storage, there is web applications and all that. There's again this comes under developer itself. There are different ways to explore in cloud. So it is you don't need to be expert in reading everything, or you need to be expert in entire services in IoT. Okay. Each one there is a level of utilization and all that. That's what I wanted to get back here. I'll say, okay, I'll take something categories industry solutions with Azure. So if I go and take some architecture. So one organization might use Azure services in this way. They might need notification hub, they might need API management service. These are all the services. API management services. Okay, that's a service in Azure. You can use Azure Kubernetes service. You can use Cosmos DB, that is a database. Azure Kubernetes is a container solution. Azure Functions is a serverless computing stuff. Event Hubs is also another, in terms of governance or in terms of general category, it comes Event Hubs. IoT device, and there is another. So all these services are utilized end of the day to provide a prime functionality in mobile one service, in video cam, and end of the day, uh, so you have to implement, you have to go and you as a cloud engineers, you no need to implement all these things, but you need to have an understanding on some services which are mentioned in AZ104. Let's remove this is too much probably because of IoT, but if I go into this one, a retail e-commerce using Azure Cosmos DB. So in a browser, a client comes in and clicks on the URL, the domain URL, www.yourstore.com. Then that request should go to a service called Azure Web App. That is where your application is running. So Azure Web App is a service in Azure to which will run websites in it, which will host a website. We'll say host a website, which is nothing but running a website in it. Azure App Services. That is the one. So I develop a code and I keep it there in that web service, and that will be available in the internet. So if thousands of requests are coming, I can scale up the virtual app service to provide that much request. What if there are 1 lakh requests coming? I can scale up the app service to handle 1 lakh requests per second. So that's the power of providing the service, a simple website to host a website. They're trying to use the Azure App Service. You can use Azure Virtual Machines also in cloud. So let's not get into that one at this point of time. This architecture is saying that a request comes in. This is a server here. This will send back the response. But behind, what is happening? What before it sends a response, it has to process it. So when it is processing it, the data, the static content of the website is being stored in the Azure cloud. The dynamic content, okay, if there is a business logic, it should be running. It is running on web app, but it is pulling the data related to product, all the catalog. It is pulling that data from the Cosmos DB, and it is also doing Azure Cognitive Search. So this is also comes under the machine learning itself. So if I go and open here, there should be a cognitive search here. This is also in a service. Okay. So there are a lot of things. This is the way they are utilizing Azure for whatever purpose they wanted at one organization. If you go another organization, they have an entire different setup here place in. They're having different environments. They have their own data center. They created some services in Azure. They have another data center which is Azure Stack Edge. We'll not get into huge into that, but they created services and they are integrating with all these services and they're trying to talk with each other. This is an application. So tomorrow, should I know this and all this? No. Personally, I've seen Azure code engineers doesn't know all these use cases, but if you are trying to achieve one scenario such sort. If you're able to create an Azure app service, and through your browser, if you're able to send a request to the Azure app service, and that Azure app service is taking content from Azure storage, and it is also interacting with Azure database, you just create a sample POC and understand that this is the way I integrate an Azure app service to storage account, to a databases, multiple databases, and behind the scenes, I consume that Azure database data, which is generated to a cognitive search or to HD insights. You are understanding service purpose, at least to that level. If you are trying to learn in this way, Azure, trust me, it's going to work out. Now, how many use cases can you learn? Myself, I can go with any number of use cases to learn and all that, but definitely I'll guide you with some use cases. I don't want you to pick directly some use cases like right now cognitive search and HD insights which are involved, because HD insights itself is like comes in Azure data engineering and all that. So it's a bit advanced, I feel. So it's not good to learn everything in one go. So you can go and pick some basic ones like this one, or smaller ones. I can go and show you a smaller ones and all that, but because I picked the retail one, it would have been tough for you. But if I go with some other, some even everything will sound that way. Healthcare, financial, everything have their own architectures and all that. It just the way they consume it, it will be different. But if you're able to set it up, you can go and tell that. Okay, you can create your own resume in a website and talk about these architectures I've tried dealing with. Okay, so just let me take back. So let me take back again back to the course syllabus. We are going to cover specifically on identity. Okay, in organization, there will be a lot of users. So how are we handling the identity? We'll address that. Okay, the next part is we'll address what is identity users. There will be lakhs of employees or 10,000s of employees, thousands of employees, right? So how are we creating that users? How are we managing it? Someone left, an employee, so we have to delete that email ID. We have to uh, what do you say, offboard that employee from all the services. You should not have any access to M365 apps, O65 apps, and all that. So when you do this kind of activities, you are managing the users in your organization. So that happens through an Azure Active Directory solution. So Azure Active Directory is a place where it's an identity. It's called an identity tool, provider tool, because you manage your users in that one. So Microsoft Azure is providing with one name called Azure Active Directory. So if you go into AWS, you will not find Azure Active Directory. They would have the similar service with a different name. Okay, so we are going to talk about so in next coming topics we'll be talking about that. The next one is about access. Okay, so if we have users, does that mean that they'll have access to all the buildings in a company? No. Might be they might not be allowed into server rooms. They can, as an employee, they can sit in anything, but not be they might not be allowed into server rooms. Now, in that kind of case, so it's like access. What type of access a employee should have and all that. Now, similarly, what type of access should a user have to all these services? They might access AI tools, but they're not allowed to access data inside a database, right? Okay, even they're employees of a bank, we don't want them to have the access to database. Why? Because that is where your financial information is. Your credit card details or your debit card details or your account details and how much money you have. Why should an employee of a bank should be aware of that? So we need to control the access to what level the resources can have, and what level is it, a read access, write access, or delete access, and whatever it is. So we have to talk about access control. If you guys have any questions, please post that. Okay, feel free to post it privately or in a group. It doesn't really matter. Okay, anything. If there is no naive question, there is no small question, big question, and all that. Okay. Next is manage Azure subscriptions and governance. What is managing Azure subscriptions and governance? Do you think there will be one virtual machine in organization? No. Do you think one website will be there, app service will be there? There might be some 10 app services, or there might be 10 web applications running on a 3 watch app services. There might be Azure Kubernetes services, 10 clusters or 20 clusters which will be running. And how do you manage such huge amount of infrastructure? Because when someone is paying some 25 lakhs rent per month, or 1 crore per month, or 2.5 crores per month rent, understand the amount of services, virtual machines they will be might be having, number of storage accounts they might be having. How do you manage all this? That's where we come back to saying that manage subscriptions and governance and all that. So we'll get to that part and all that in as we keep going on. Next is implementing storage. So we spoke about managed identities and all that. So on these topics, you will see questions. So if there are 100 questions, you will see 15 to 20 questions on that. Okay. These topics which you just said right now. Now, similarly, you will have related to storage, there is like again the same percentage, 15 to 20 questions on storage. Now, what topics in storage? What are the different types of how do you give access to storage account? How do you give access to storage? Okay, so what type of accesses are there to type of access methods are there to go and access a storage? We're going to discuss, we have to discuss about that. The next is how do you manage the data in the storage? So how do you store a file? How do you retrieve a file, read a file? How do you delete a file and all that? Next is there are different types of storage services. What all different types of storage services are there? We're going to talk about that. So please understand that Azure 104 will only go to one level. So there are the other services, doesn't mean that all the services, whatever you're seeing in this, all will not be seen here. One level they're going to explain, because there are other certifications specifically talking about it. How many Azure certifications are there? Here are huge Azure certifications. Okay. Uh, just not one. There are different Azure certifications entirely. If I click on browse certifications, if I click on Azure, there are different certifications. Azure. Based on which category you're going, as I said, that you're going from Active Directory point of view, or if identity provider point of view, IoT point of view, based on that, you will go in that path. Here you see there are different roles: security solution architect, okay, so security operational analyst, network engineer, identity access administrator, informatica protection, information protection administration, okay, administrator. So there are different this such, okay, ways you can explore and you can crack things, but will not cover every service in AZ 104. Other services will be covered in other certification topics. Then this is done. So in storage, knowing about the access, how do you manage the data in that storage services? How do you create the storage services? Will be 15 to 20 questions. 15-20% of that. And next is 20 to 25 questions will be primarily on how do you manage the Azure compute resources. All these services you end up using in compute, because if you're storing a file in some storage service, end of the day it has to be consumed from a virtual machine or app service or from Azure Kubernetes service or something. That's nothing but a compute service. So end of the day, all these are interrelated to this service. That's why it's assigning a good amount of percentage to it. So how do you write an ARM template? How do you deploy using an ARM template? So there are different ways to create it. If I wanted to create any service, I can go ahead and create here. Okay, I can go ahead and create some sample service from portal. You can similarly create a service in Azure from PowerShell, from ARM, from what do you say, CLI, from Terraform, and all this. So why there are different ways to create it? For the everyone have their own listings and all that. Based on the use cases, we will choose what to create and all that. So yes, the next level is like Terraform is one way right now mostly used to deploy all this. So if you know very well about ARM, you can start writing some good things about in Terraform too. The next one is how do you create a virtual machine? So they're trying to talk about a VM here and all the options which are available in a virtual machine. Now, this other than that, you have Azure Container Instances ACI. Also, they're talking about how you utilize, how do you see an AKS. So they're trying to talk about here ACI and AKS. So when you go through this AZ-104, does it mean that you become a Kubernetes specialist? Because in Kubernetes, if you go, there are three certifications: Azure Certified Kubernetes Developer, Certified Kubernetes Administrator, Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist. Why do we have this many certifications? Because if you're a Kubernetes guy, you can get paid in US around 1,20,000 to $50,000 or $1,80,000. If you are in India, if you're a Kubernetes specialist, you can get paid some 30 lakhs to 50, 40 lakhs and all. So that is, so Kubernetes itself is a very huge one if you go ahead with to start off with. So because Kubernetes can be consumed by applications, Kubernetes can be consumed by AI application models, Kubernetes can be consumed by the data analytics for HD insights and all that. So a Kubernetes itself is so vast one, and it's a bit complicated because it's a next level subject. If you don't know what is a virtual machine, you can't know what is a how to utilize AKS will just become a more challenging for you. Okay, so we are still, but here we are going basics only. So when you are seeing, don't expect a CKD, or CKS, that means Certified Kubernetes Administrator level questions inside this one. It is just to give a basic understanding about there is a service called Kubernetes in Azure, and most of the companies are using Kubernetes. So do you have an understanding about Kubernetes? So they wanted to give that in the administrator course, an explanation about it. That's why they're saying that administrator, as an administrator, what will you do? You will not create Kubernetes service. End of the day means you go into a company, you will not be sitting and creating stuff. You will be already, they would have been creating something and you will be managing that. You have to go and attach some storage, or you have to scale up the AKS solution because lot of requests are coming and all that. Or you have to upgrade the application which is running in that one. So that is like you might have to do a rolling upgrade. So a lot of things involved, and we'll get to all this. Even if you're not, it's new to you, these terms and everything, you have, this will just get become habituated. Please don't feel that you are the only one who is hearing bit new to these terms and all. There are a lot of terms, but if you are able to explain all this, and as you keep listening to these terms, you get habituated. See, there should be a starting point somewhere. So you guys are starting with that. So again, create and configure containers. Okay, that's one thing is done. Okay, the next topic is in terms of compute, there's virtual machines, there is AKS solution, Kubernetes solution, then there is about app service. How do I host a web application in a virtual machine, in an AKS, in a Azure app service? So there are different splittings related to that app service. We have to talk about it later on. And we have virtual network. So you have to have your own network, every organization. How will you secure it, what it is, and all that. This next point is, and what is balancing? Because what if I'm getting thousands of requests, lakhs of requests? How should I balance it to different servers? I can't create a one server which can handle one request, 1 lakh requests per second. I have to create some hundreds of servers which can handle 1 lakh requests per second. Now, if that was the case, then I have to ensure that the requests which are coming in should be going to all the servers. So we have to use what type of load balancing solutions we have, all that. Next, how do I monitor network traffic? It's very important to monitor network traffic. Next one is, how do you monitor in one there? So monitoring virtual network is different. Monitoring entire, what type of errors are we getting in app service, web application? Are there is there my application down? Is my virtual machine switched off? Is my storage account storage data is filled? Is my database is backup is complete? Is there any downtime in Azure? Is there any so how do I get to know all that? Monitoring. Okay. Now then you implement disaster and recovery. Okay, what is disaster and recovery? So will you trust your business will keep going smooth if you set up everything? No, there might be someone attack could happen. There could be some error could happen because of an employee, or there is some situation which could have encountered in your application. But how is your backup plan? What is your plan B? So that's where the other services comes in. So this is it till this level we are covering it. With this, will I learn my Azure? No. Complete cloud, I already said you, the starting itself, you have to skill up to the next things, the next go-to things. But if you have to take up this from there, we have to plan. Do you want it to go into DevOps? Do you want it to go into data engineering? Do you want it to go into AI? Do you want it to go into IoT? All that. So you have to find, you have to be connecting your dots. Okay. You should not be like uh, from Hyderabad, suppose you're in one location, you're traveling to another location. So let's say that from India, you're going to US. In USA, you have different states there. Now, if you right now you plan one state and then from there you go to UK and you're going to another state and coming from there to another USA state, that is more tiresome and more time consuming. The better one is whatever states you wanted to visit in USA, plan that out, complete it out, come out of it, go to UK, complete there, then come back to India. That's more better, right? The same way you have to learn the level up courses in the same fashion. How do you connect the dots? That's where you have to reach out to people, experienced people, and get to learn stuff and all that. But this is it, guys. So any questions? What are the prerequisites if I wanted to start learning cloud? That's a very good question, Robert. Server fundamentals. What understand server fundamentals? At least 2 hours. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry for that. At least for 2 hours, you have to understand what is our fundamentals. Means what is processor, what is a RAM, how does why do we have different processor types? What is the use out of it? How the CPU spike will happen? How the processor, how the OS runs? What type of OS commands are there? This all comes under the server fundamental topics. Next, understand storage fundamentals. If you guys are not a CSC guys, or you're not from the computer background and all that, you need to learn these things. Understand server fundamentals, storage fundamentals. 2 hours where what is an HDD, what is an SSD, what is throughput, uh, what we have throughput, IOPS. So all these things. So will CSE guys knows this? No. But if you guys are getting to know it, there will be some terminologies in cloud always. Okay, which we will use. Trust me, even people who are Azure administrators don't know these things, many things in that. And when we'll try to say in, if I go create a disk, now I'll tell you why I need IOPS. Okay, many people might not be aware of. So I'll create a disk. Click on creating a disk. Uh, Click on change disk. You see IOPS, provisioned IOPS, provision throughput, burst IOPS, burst throughput. Uh, at that point of time, you'll understand why am I going to a different size and all that. So I might not need 1 TB of disk. I might need, my application needs 5000 IOPS. My application just needs 32 GB. And will I choose IOPS when I need 5000 IOPS? But disk which I'm choosing, which is giving me 32 GB of storage space, will I choose that? No, I will choose 5000 IOPS, even it is 1 TB, because I need that much IOPS. Hope is clear. So how will you get to know, understand that way? How will you see it that way? Only when you are able to understand it, this basic fundamentals. So I missed this. Thanks for bringing that up. These are the prerequisites. Understand. So what am I saying there? So that many people doesn't know. Even if you're not aware of it, it is fine. Doesn't mean that you can learn cloud. Because the way we are learning at this point of time is you click a button, you create so and so. Click a button, you so and so will happen. So when you're learning in that way, if you're learning for what purpose are we doing it, all that is great. But even if it is not so, we are able to make it happen. So quantity and quality, you have to mix both of it. Don't focus on entirely quality point of view. Don't focus entirely on quantity point of view. If you're focusing on more quantity, you can create many things, but you don't know for what purpose you're doing it. If you're focusing on quality, you might know some two, three things, but you can't talk about the rest of the stuff. You mix match, learn few services end to end, learn few services, what it is, that is sufficient. You have to pick which one you have to learn end to end, which you have to learn to one level. Okay, that matters a lot. Network fundamentals. Okay. When we're talking about network fundamentals, uh, here, how do I keep this? 2 hours. I think this is where I will assign, even if I bring down this to 1 hour to 2 hours, I'm fine. But this is where if I spend 2 to 4 hours in networking fundamentals, what is a firewall? What is an IP address? What is a MAC address? What is an IP address space? I know many cloud engineers who doesn't even know how to the subnet masking and all that. Okay, that's like I have an address space, I have to bring down that and all that. So doesn't matter. They're still the cloud engineers, they're able to get the job done and all that. Good. If you're able to learn this, you can no need to by heart. Understand the basics very well. Because when I go and I create a virtual network, I'm creating a virtual network and I'm creating a network. Why am I creating a network? I wanted to connect my devices in one network. I to connect all the devices because I wanted to secure my web applications to only access only one database, and the database should only allow when the connections are coming from a specific network. Then I have to connect the database in that to that network, and I have to connect my app service to that network or my virtual machine to that network. That is only when that is going to happen. So I have to ensure that my all my machines are in same network. That's how organization works on it. That's why they need a virtual network. Okay, we get to that questions and all that later on. But see, if I see I have a sub address space right now, I can break it into subsections. I can break into subsections of I can create. So how do you know that you need to go for subnet masking in such fashion? No, you can't. You unless you know what is an IP address and IP address space, you can't. So you need to know what is an IP address. Next one is TCP, UDP. What is a TCP? What is UDP? These are protocols. Next one is OSI layer. You need to know there are 7 different OSI layers. Okay, where when we are creating load balancing solutions, if you are going for layer 3, you go and prefer network layer. If you're going, you'll prefer load balancer. If you wanted to filter traffic from layer 7, which is from HTTPS, domain name, URLs, and all that, that is layer 7 protocol. That means we have to go for application gateway. How much time does it take for me? Learn this, and you have any questions, you can reach out to me personally from my WhatsApp. Ping me, I'll try to help you with that. But you have to learn in this fashion, guys. Please learn in this fashion. It might take some time, but the revision you do it and all that. If you don't know this, can't I learn this? That again, I'm coming back. No, nothing like that. There are many people whom I personally know. Even I've interacted with people from Australia. I've interacted with people from Dubai, UK, and US. No, everyone, everyone just they might know very good about server fundamentals, but they might not know about network fundamentals. I met many network engineers who say that I'm good at networking services, but I'm not sure on storage. I will say that what if I study more, I makes my job easier. Network fundamentals. If you are learning network fundamentals, there's a very good chance that you learn everything very well. It's like developer. If you know coding, you will understand many things like that. The same way, if you're learning network fundamentals, there is a way, it's more easier for you to learn and understand services. Yeah, any other questions, guys? So you can get this content from YouTube. If you want, I'll anyways in the next coming sessions, I'll tell you how to create and portal Azure account and all that, but you can go to portal.azure.com and you can go and search it.